how is it that IBM saw fit to introduce the PC before it started delivering the network?
A different line of business.
Yes.
So IBM, the systems company,
IBM, the systems company, had different business units, and
didn't have a concept of.
to some degree, but that was that was the first example. Boca Raton was sort of independent; they could do what they wanted, and then Austin came next, and they could do what they wanted. So we managed to get all this stuff standardized. My job was to standardize everything in our LAN portfolio around the world. So that meant in the U.S. and in France and in England and in Japan and in all of Europe. I was not necessarily a welcome visitor to these other committees or to any standards committee. We had people in all the countries to kind of do that, but our reasons were simply yes.
You had people in all the countries whose job it was not to be welcome in the standards.
That's right. Right. Somebody had to be the odd man out. It was IBM. But IBM was acting in good faith for the kind of customers that it had. And it really wasn't, I think, until Ethernet became switched that it really won the war. Then you had all the determinism that you wanted. And really by separating the PHY and the MAC and the services above the MAC, I think we enabled each sub-layer of the architecture to develop at its own pace.
So would it be fair to say that IBM, in creating Token Ring for its concept of a customer, did not recognize the transformative nature of the market at that point in time, which was being driven by the PC?
I think IBM's understanding of the transformative nature of the market is not a single answer. Parts of IBM certainly understood the transformative nature of the PC, but the real transformative nature did not come about until you had different chips, Windows, and lots of people writing applications.
And to their credit, I think you'd have to say that digital didn't understand the transformative nature. Because more than once I had colleagues who went there, and every time they asked for a PC with a network connection, the response was, why would you want one? You have a terminal on the VAX.
Let's see, in about 87 maybe, interviewed at Tandem, and they couldn't understand why anybody would want anything other than a great hulking, dual redundant mainframe with terminals. So
I have a question, and maybe you're going to hit on that one, but to me, I wonder whether there actually was a technical goodness to 802.3 or 802.5, 802.3 and 5, Ethernet and Token, or whether it was primarily politics or business practices as to which one.
or market dynamics rather than technical dynamics.
Right. Well, I mean, from the viewpoint I saw growing up in that world was Token Ring was all IBM and IBM controlled. It ended up being its form of Epsilon, and it was not something that everybody was using this, and then IBM was using that. And when IBM was dominant, that was important, and when IBM is one of many, it isn't quite as important.
So at the time, nobody was using anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't that everybody was using Ethernet and others were using Token Ring. So it was, I think, an honest effort on IBM's part to actually meet the demands of its customers and its financial institution customers in particular. And IBM truly thought that it was a superior technology, and Ethernet was a little bit too fuzzy.
Let me suggest that the characterization isn't quite accurate. It wasn't that nobody was using anything. People were using Ethernet all over the place, departmentally. It wasn't being driven from the top down, because I can tell you, having been in the Ethernet business, we sold boatloads of Ethernet.
What years, Joe? What year?
Mid-80s?
Okay, so mid-80s is not when we conceived this idea. Mid-80s is when it finally hit the market and got through product development. And by then, there was a lot of experimentation going on.
Not experimentation, production systems, business critical systems, running on NetWare, running on Ethernet, all over the world.
So would it be fair to say that the mini computer market never embraced token ring? And they saw connectivity needs and they went with Ethernet. And that started fairly early.
Now, I left IBM in 1992 from the Zurich lab where I moved. I don't think I ever worked at an IBM facility that had token ring
I can't believe that.
installed. I mean, I was on a VM,
You didn't eat your own cookie.
I was on a VM terminal till I left Zurich.
So let me tell you how deeply you penetrated the market then. As of 4 or 5 years ago at Gartner,
Can you give him the mic?
as of 4 or 5 years ago at Gartner, we were still getting requests for where can we buy more token ring cards. Oh yeah. We're still getting requests for where can we find a 3745 replacement. Because we're still running FEPs with VTAM. And we're still getting requests for things like TN3270. So, I mean, I gotta say, it is scary sometimes when we see the logo that comes in on the call and the question is, where can we find some more token ring cards and we need a new FEP? And that's kind of, have you heard of something called IP and Ethernet? No. So you were extraordinarily effective at driving it into your account base, and it's scary how sticky.
Now, I don't know how good, I'll get to you in a second. IBM was it making it possible or easy for other companies to market token ring products? I know there were a few.
Well, I would suggest that you described it very well. Your job was not to help drive a token ring standard. Your job was to get your products standardized with no change whatsoever. In Ethernet, the job of the attendees was to drive an Ethernet standard.
Well, and drive the market. And to do whatever it took in the standard to expand the market for network. If you ran into a wall because it wasn't doing the right thing, you turn.
I mean, IBM gave Ethernet a great gift with your structured cabling system. Because it took a system that was impossible to troubleshoot
You're welcome.
and turned it into something that was easy to troubleshoot.
I think we should give him the mic. I've got his, the monologue is over.
Let me put one thing in on that. Because Joe attacks a very nice point, which I have a little experience with, where it says in 1984, IBM's introduced the structured cabling system. It did that with no LAN products. It did it as future building, and oh yes, you could run 3270 on it as well with adapters at each end. My employer, which shows up 2 lines later, Synoptics, immediately jumped in as soon as the company opened to running Ethernet over the oversold IBM structured cabling system. They managed to pump a lot of it into the market just on the basis of future speculation, and it provided a great step up for Synoptics to be profitable its first quarter in the market.
Jeff,
Yeah.
I want to defend our IBM representative, because sometimes in the early 80s, maybe 80 or 81, I had to go and talk to some vice presidents in some very large financial institutions and talk to them about the future of communications. And as soon as they heard, well, you had a great job of introducing this non-determinism into the game, because these vice presidents were literally shaking when they were told that you could transmit things like your paycheck through a non-deterministic network where you couldn't guarantee its delivery ever, right? So that was that's why I realized what a great marketing power IBM was, where I couldn't convince people on pure technical arguments. And they would go with Token Ring, even though it was 10 times more expensive and didn't really exist yet, I mean, till 1984, or whenever the structured cabling came along, and then finally I had a connection to front end, the 3705, and connection to a terminal, which really didn't need it because it used that twin axe for that connection. So I think, we have to separate engineering versus marketing arguments here.